Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today we are going to play around with some die-cut silhouettes. And I have 3 different ways you can use these silhouettes in your card making. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have 3 different card layouts I want to share with you. And each of them feature some fun little die-cut silhouettes that I used to create the focal points for these cards. Now, the cards feature a new stamp set called Rhino Ready. So this particular stamp set comes as a bundle, so you can get the stamp set and you can get a coordinating die set. So I'm going to be using the dies from this particular set to create the little silhouettes for our cards today. Now, keep in mind that you can use any die cut shapes for this fun little silhouette effect. All right, so let me show you how to create these different card layouts. Okay, so the first way that you can use silhouettes in your card making is simply by doing a little bit of ink blending in the background to create a fun little background for the card. So the silhouettes are basically just different shapes, different die cut shapes that are cut from black cardstock. So it kind of gives the impression of a silhouette. So really the key is to come up with a fun little background to accent or highlight those silhouettes. So this first card, I'm going to do just a little bit of ink blending to create that silhouette effect. So the first thing I did is I just cut a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock. So this is going to be the piece that I'm going to do the ink blending on. And I'm going to start with some crushed curry ink. And I also cut a little circle shape that I'm going to use as a mask just to kind of create that moon up in the background here. So I'm just going to turn my card. It's just a little easier to do the ink blending this way. So you just pick up some ink on your blending brush and then you just kind of go along and brush it onto your cardstock. And I kind of start off the cardstock and then go onto the cardstock. And you can make this as light or as dark as you wish. I'm going to go just a little lighter. All right, so once you are done coloring, adding all the different colors, then you can remove this mask and you can see that it still leaves that white in the background there. So that kind of serves as my little moon or my big moon. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adhere this to my card front. So I'm just using black cardstock for the base of my card. So we will just add this to our card base. And then we have our fun little background. So now we're going to create the little silhouettes. So I'm just going to set this aside. So I just cut a variety of pieces, different die cut shapes, using the Rhino Ready die set. And so what I'm going to do is just put these together. So I'm going to show you how these go together. So you have this larger tree here. And then you have the little branches. I just kind of flip it over and then I add some dimensionals just to kind of hold those branches in place because I do want to pop these up on the card. So you can just use different size dimensionals to do that. So there's the first one, and then this one, same thing, we'll add the little branches for this little tree. So that's what the trees look like. And then we'll just add a couple dimensionals to the back of our little rhino silhouette. All right, so let's bring our card back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my greeting right away on the bottom. So I just took a 1 inch by 5 1/4 inch piece of black cardstock and I just tore a little bit off the top just to kind of give that silhouette of like grass. And then I just embossed my greeting right on the front. And we're just going to pop it up with a couple dimensionals and we'll put it right at the bottom of the card front. So basically when you're working with silhouettes, everything is going to be black. All the elements will be black. So now we will just add our die cut elements. So I'll add this larger tree over this direction. And then we'll add this smaller tree. We'll just kind of tuck this in here. And then we'll just add our little rhino. I just cut a little bit off the bottom just so that I could tuck this in here a little tighter. So that's really it. That's how simple it is. And look how beautiful. I just love the look of the silhouette. So that's the first way you can do it, is you can sponge your background. Now let me show you a couple other ways that you can do this. Okay, the second way that you can use these silhouettes in your card making is simply by using some designer paper. So that's what I did here. So instead of ink blending this background, I used a background that was already made for me. So let me show you how I created this one. So you're going to start with a piece of black cardstock for the base of the card. And then I just cut a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of designer paper. So this is one of the designer series paper patterns from the Enjoy the Journey DSP pack. So it has some really great patterns in it for silhouette card making. Well, for all kinds of card making, but especially for the silhouettes. So now I'm going to add my greeting. And again, I just did a little heat embossing on here with white embossing powder. But this is a 1 1/2 by 4 inch piece of black cardstock, and I just tore a little bit off the top. And this is just going to go on the bottom here. And then we can add our little silhouette die cut shapes. So I'm going to add the large tree, the larger one, and then we'll tuck the smaller one kind of above it. And then the last thing that I did is I just cut a 1 inch circle shape, and I'm just going to adhere that right to the top of the card. So how simple is that? And look how beautiful that is. Okay, and then the third card layout that I want to share with you is really just a panel card design. And it just kind of carries over the design. It's kind of like looking through a window is what it reminds me of. So you leave a little bit of black space in between all these different pieces of designer paper. So let me show you how I did this. So to create the layout for this card, I actually started with a 4 1/2 by 4 inch piece of designer paper. And then I just cut it apart into little strips. So these are 3/4 inch wide strips here. And then this is 1 1/2, and then these are 3/4 inch. So that way you get that pattern kind of carries along across your card. So I'm going to show you how to put this together. So for this card, you're going to start with a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of black cardstock, and you're basically going to line your pieces up so that you leave a little bit of space, a little bit of black space in between all of these pieces. So I like to lay out my pieces first before I adhere them so that I roughly have an idea of how I want to do this. So your first piece is really just going to go right on the edge of this black cardstock. So we're going to go right up to the edge. And then you're just going to adhere the rest of the pieces from there. Okay, so that is what it looks like when all the pieces are adhered. So now we can go ahead and add this piece to our card front. So I just found that it's easier to adhere these pieces to a separate piece of black cardstock. You can adhere them right to the card front too if you want to avoid having that extra piece in there. And then we're going to add the same type of greeting. So this was a 1 by 5 1/4 inch piece of black cardstock. I just tore the top and did a little bit of heat embossing on here for the greeting. So that just goes across the bottom. And then we can go ahead and tuck in our little die cut shapes, our little silhouette shapes. And then the last thing I did for this one is I just cut a 1-inch circle shape, but then you can see it's not an equal circle. That's because I cut out about a 1/4 inch from the center of the circle so that I could add each of these pieces up on the top here. So it kind of looks like the circle, like the moon is behind a window pane here. So you just glue each little piece to the top, and then it just gives you a really fun look. All right, so that is card number 3. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 3 different ways that you can use silhouette die cut shapes in your card making. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.